Welcome to Good Talk.
Here we are.
I can't believe we're here. We finally launched this podcast. We've been talking about this forever.
We have. In some way, shape, or form, we're like, we want to create something. Like, what do we do? You know, we want to use gift sets or just things that we're curious about. And this kind of was what we landed on. How long ago? I don't even know. Just been something we've kind of just constantly talked about doing and never did. And
well, we both have a lot of different projects going on. Yeah. And it's been like, okay, we want to do something together for good. Hence, Good Talk.
Yeah. I love it. I'm excited. I don't know. I think it's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah, I do too. And, you know, I think our heart for this podcast is that we want to the best of our ability, interrupt your mundane, interrupt your heavy that you're feeling in your life, and introduce you to the joy of life and the love of God and the possibilities that lie ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
That's what we want to do. We don't want to overcomplicate this or make it more than it is, but we hope to interrupt some of that.
Yeah, and I think we've both been in seasons of life in general where we needed that, you know, and
for sure.
We'll have more to come. But I just think, I don't know, it's our heart and our goal to just be that light to remind you of how valuable and loved you are, and then like introduce our crazy, weird life along the way.
Yeah. And I'm so confused right now because I know we have video going because it's on YouTube. So,
yeah, we're at YouTube and podcast.
And then and then I'm also like, because it's just the two of us right now, and we're in our living room, and our dog is sitting 2 feet away, and our cat is roaming around.
You'll hear him.
But my biggest fear is that the Amazon guy is going to knock on the door.
Okay, that's
does. No, he does all the freaking time.
That was a jab. I feel it.
No, it was not a jab, but it's a reality check. He could knock, and what are we going to do? It's going to be awkward.
No, we invite him into our lives because he is part of it in too much of a way.
He is very much part of our life.
So Alexa is a part of our life, and she might answer me, actually, that I just said it that loudly. Yeah. She's very close by.
She sits in our kitchen, which is 2 feet away.
Yeah, we have kind of like an open concept. So living room, dining, everything's kind of together. So we ask her a lot of questions, and
You pulled it,
I pulled it. So if you don't know this is great, and it's also a great spy tactic, but you can go and see what people ask your Alexa. And I pulled it up in our history, and I just pulled up the latest few questions.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, to say the least, and telling in a lot of ways. You want to hear?
Yep, sure.
I just pulled a few. First one, how old is Willie Nelson? Which is such a valid question.
It's a great question. How old is he?
He's 87.
I remember us asking that because we saw him on TV.
Yeah.
I thought he was like 146.
He's perpetually 146. God love him. He is so talented.
He's still crushing it,
He's crushing it. At 87, I hope I look like that at 87. Maybe not like quite like that.
I feel like he looked 87, though, like 40 years ago when I was a kid.
He did look, he's always looked 87. I just hope my hair is as like as long and beautiful as his is at 87.
What else do we ask?
All right. How many Papa Johns are in the country? And I remember why you asked this. We read some article somewhere that said that Papa John's gets all their pepperoncinis from one farmer. And we're like,
the little peppers that come in the pizza.
Pepperoncinis, yeah. Does this one dude produce? There's no way.
Lot.
It's a lot.
And I was growing peppers on the farm, and
right,
I thought maybe I could help out.
Yeah, sure, okay.
No, I could. I grew a lot this year, not that many.
He grew 40. So, anyways, there's like 4,000 chains, in case you're wondering, which means like millions of pepperoncinis every day. Anyway,
that dude's
continue. He's killing it. The other one I found, which you already mentioned, was what have I ordered? Like, what has my wife ordered?
No, so I asked because he kept coming to the door. I'm like, okay, Alexa, tell me. What has she ordered lately?
But Alexa's my girl, and she does not realize that I am your wife and did not tell you what I ordered. The fourth one, where is Mount Rushmore? I claim this. This is my bad. I'm not well traveled. I've been to like the Southeast, and I've been to like India and Canada. So I've traveled, but not
South
great.
Dakota, right?
It's South Dakota. Yeah. My bad. All right, last one. And this is also my bad, but I had a very fair argument. Okay, so my question was, are there whales in Lake Michigan?
Oh my gosh, I so remember this. Okay, so I work a lot in Michigan, and we got to take a little excursion for the day over to Lake Michigan, which is unbelievably beautiful. It looks like an ocean, which got us thinking, are there whales here?
No.
You were convinced that there were.
That's not why we were curious. I was doing my due diligence as a tourist. We were going to Grand Haven, which is beautiful. Great, like lighthouse out. It just jets out into the water.
In their Instagram feed.
Instagram feed had a picture of a whale
jumping up in the air out of the water. And so she was convinced that therefore there are whales in Lake Michigan. And I felt strongly there were not, but she started to convince me. And so I started to wonder. And so we actually asked Alexa, are there whales in Lake Michigan? There are not, by the way. And those of you who live in that area know that. We went back on the Instagram. What was the date on the picture from Instagram from Grand Haven?
Who looks at dates when you look at pictures? Date? April 1st.
April 1st, which is what?
April Fool's.
April Fool's Day. It convinced her that you just thought the whole time there were whales there.
Valid thought. I thought it's as large as an ocean. Maybe over time there's been like some evolution. Anyways, I've had enough of your hate and judgment. Right. So what are we going to talk about today, Pete?
Okay, here's what we're going to talk about. Because I think part of, for us, again, is introducing everyone to the joy of life and the love of God and the possibilities that lie ahead. And something I want to do from time to time, my background is that of a pastor. And I spent most of my life giving like sermons and messages and talks, whatever you want to call it. And I've found them to be really helpful for me in my life. And I think from time to time, what we want to do on this podcast is just share what we're learning. Yeah. And sometimes it's from scripture. Sometimes it's from just our daily life. Sometimes it's from a place that we've just screwed up royally. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, all right, here's what we're learning through the midst of our mess. Yeah. Right. And today I just want to share a little bit about I hate saying my favorite story in Scripture, but I think it is. It's the most meaningful story in Scripture for me. Yeah. It's a very famous one. If you're familiar at all with the Bible, if you grew up in church at all, you've heard of the prodigal son. And that story has always meant a lot to me, but probably in the past 5 years has carried a whole new meaning. I think the reality is there's three main characters in this story. And all of us at different times and seasons in our life play one of those characters. Mm-hmm. And most of my life, I had played one particular character. And then all of a sudden in my life, I'm playing a different character. And it turned my whole world upside down. Mm-hmm. But in the midst of that, what I found was that this story was still very true and meaningful and really just meant a lot to me. So I just want to share a little bit. It's found in the book of Luke. It's in the New Testament, Luke chapter 15. And I won't read the whole story, but the story, in case you're not familiar with the prodigal son, it's about this kid who basically tells his father he knows better than he does. Mm-hmm. And that he wants his own life. And it's like, essentially says, screw you to his dad. Yeah. And he takes off. He asks for his, half of the inheritance. He has a brother. He gets half the inheritance. He goes off. He blows all the money, thinking he knows what's best for him, and wakes up one day and he's like, this is not where I want to be. My life is empty. I'm miserable. I need help. He doesn't know where to go. He's exhausted every possible scenario. So he's like, I think I need to go home, right? And that's where we pick up the story. It's Luke 15, it's verse 20. It says, so he got up and he went to his father because that's what he felt like was his only option, right? And it says, while he was still a long way off, his father saw him, was filled with compassion and ran to him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him and kissed him. And I love this. Again, in case you don't know, this story, it's a setup. Jesus is telling the story, right? Yeah. And the son that runs far off, the prodigal son, if you will, represents all of us at different moments in our life. The father in the story represents God, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have this moment where the son realizes he has nothing, he has no options, he's screwed up everything, right? He's violated everything his father believes in. He has no other options, and so he turns and he runs home. And in that moment, his father meets him with grace and love. And it's kind of like the Bible's telling us, and this is true from the very beginning of Genesis to the end, which is Revelation, that even when you knew better, when everything was telling you not to do something, when all of the wisdom of life and all of your friends around you were saying, don't do this, don't buy that. Yeah. Don't marry that person. Don't go there. Don't do that. But you did it anyway. that even when that happens, when things come crashing down and you are full of shame and guilt and you feel like there's nowhere to turn, you can turn back to the very God that you turned your back on in the first place, and he'll offer you mercy.
Yeah.
It's my favorite scene in all of Scripture. That scene where the son is running back to the father, and he doesn't know. He doesn't know how the father's going to respond, and the father responds with nothing but love and grace and mercy.
Yeah, and I think one of my favorite things about that story is that the father was not waiting inside. He describes him as already walking towards him.
It's a relentless pursuit.
A relentless pursuit, and it's just beautiful to think like he was coming to him with his party clothes, and he was throwing a party for him. Like anyone who's experienced shame, and I'm not trying to like fast forward, I don't know where you're going with this, but anyone who's experienced shame, you expect that you have to knock on the door and wait for the door to open and beg and just wonder how disappointed they're going to be when they open the door. And the thought of someone walking towards you with
beautiful.
love is just unfathomable.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The very next verse, verse 21, says, the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son, which is the whole speech she had been rehearsing up to that moment.
Oh, I'm sure. Think about that.
It was a speech of, I know I'm not worthy. I don't even want to be considered as your son. I'll just be your servant. Mm-hmm. And what I love is that literally in this moment, while he's considering the fact that he's not even considered to be his father's son anymore, he just wants to be the servant, right? He just wants to be a slave. The father interrupts him. And the very next verse says, the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine that was dead is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. And in that moment, what happens, and this is so important, I think, for all of us that have fallen short, which I believe truly is all of us. Yeah. Some of us maybe haven't realized it yet, but we all fallen short. Is what we realize in this moment is that our sin or our shortcomings don't make us second class.
Yeah.
Right? Everything that the father offers the son in that moment is restating him back to his original status. He says, let's put a ring on his finger. Let's put sandals on his feet. Let's kill the fattened calf. All those are signs of honor, right? He's saying, in essence, you never earned all this, right? You didn't earn it in the beginning. You never lost it. It's all yours. Like your sin didn't make you second class. You don't have to be my servant. You are my son. And I think, and I don't mean this in an offensive way, but too often, historically in Christianity, what we want to offer is limited grace. We want to offer conditional grace. We want to offer strings attached grace. It's like you're forgiven, but we're going to keep an eye on you.
Yeah.
Right? It's you're forgiven, but you'll never be in ministry again. Mm-hmm. It's grace, but it's grace with an asterisk. And as soon as you put an asterisk next to grace, it ceases to be grace. And I just want everyone to understand that when God looks at you, no matter what you've done, whether you did it yesterday or you did it 100 years ago, when God looks at you, he doesn't see a prodigal. He doesn't see a servant. He doesn't see a screw up. What he sees is his son. He sees his daughter, complete, forgiven, whole, restored. That's what he sees. No strings attached.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's hard. That's hard to comprehend, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think as humans, that's so unfathomable because we have our own hurts. And a lot of times our own hurt impacts how we treat other people. And like, I get it. I've done it. People I know have done it. I've been hurt by it. You've been hurt by it. You've done it. Everyone's done it. It's just, to me, it's just so life-changing when you experience someone walking toward you. It's changed my life. It's changed your life in certain ways for the people. Like I can tell you right now, the moments in my life when I was at my rock bottom. And I remember the people. There weren't a lot, to be honest, but I remember the people who walked towards me. and it changed my life. It completely shifted how I wanted to live.
It's beautiful. And this story, there's so many facets to the story. I talked about there's 3 characters, right? And we've been introduced to 2 of them. The father, which represents God, and the prodigal, which really represents all of us. And so, the son's home, he's loved, he's accepted by the father, and you kind of assume that's the end of the story, right? It's a beautiful story, but it's not, because there is another brother.
The brother.
And verse 25 of this story says, meanwhile, the older son was in the field, and when he came near the house, he heard the music and the dancing. And so he called one of his servants and asked him, what's going on? He said, your brother has come home, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So this is the third character. It's the older brother. This is the brother that's done everything right. All right, this is the brother who goes to church every Sunday. This is the brother who's never been through a divorce. This is the brother who's never been arrested or caught looking at porn or been fired or went through any kind of public failure. It's that person in your life. It's that friend. It's that family member, right? And not only is the older brother not really pumped about the party, but he declares he's not going to even go to the party because he doesn't think his screw-up younger brother deserves to be welcomed home. And he's certainly not going to go to a party that honors his younger brother. And to be honest, in my sane moments, I have to believe that the older brother kind of has a rational point.
Yeah. Well, otherwise you feel like all your quote unquote efforts are null and void. Why would I do this?
He's like, what is there to celebrate? What's the party about? Is the party about the younger brother's wise decisions? No. Is the party about the fact that his little excursion trip went well? No. I mean, what is there to celebrate in this moment? There's only one thing to celebrate in regards to the younger brother. And that's that his dad still loves him. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all there is to celebrate. And so now confession time. And we'll have confession time a lot on this podcast.
Probably too much.
My confession today is that I've been the prodigal. I have. I have felt what it feels like to be the prodigal, to be lost and be a long way from home. And I'll probably share more about that over time on this podcast. I think that's probably enough for week 1. But I've been the prodigal. And I've met a lot of other people on my journey that have been the prodigal. I've met a lot of other people who on their journey trying to get back home have met the spirit of the older brother before they met the love of the father.
Mm-hmm. So they never got home.
And they never got home. It discouraged them greatly. And I think that's where some people are right now that are probably listening to this podcast, is that they're lost. They know they're lost. They're wondering. They want to come back home. But the reality is they've met the spirit of the older brother. Or they've met the spirit of a lot of older brothers. They've met judgmentalism. They've met people looking down on them and pointing fingers and calling them names. And sometimes it's happened in real life, and sometimes they've just imagined it. I've imagined a lot of elder brothers, right? Religion kind of creates elder brothers. It just does. And I think it's tragic. And I think part of what we want to do on this podcast, I have a friend that Bob Goff.
Yeah.
And he's meant a lot to me in my life. He's been a great encouragement to me. And he writes in one of his books about learning to skydive. He went to learn to skydive with his son. And he talks this story about how the skydive instructor was kind of giving them lessons about what would happen if the chute doesn't open, which is never good. And the skydive instructor said, actually, in reality, if your chute doesn't open, hitting the ground is not what kills you.
Good.
You hit the ground, and when you hit the ground, that breaks every bone in your body. You're not dead yet, though. You will bounce off the ground.
We've taken such a weird
I know. It sounds terrible. You're going to bounce off the ground. And it's the second landing that kills you when all of your broken bones puncture your organs. I know it sounds so gruesome.
Wow, guys.
I know. But listen, what he says, this is what he wrote. I wrote it down in my notes here. He says, it's usually not the initial failure that takes any of us out. It's the bounce. We've all hit the ground hard at work or in a relationship or with a big ambition, whether we had a big public failure or even a big private one. The initial failure won't crush our spirit or kill our faith. It's the second hit that does. The second hit is what follows when things go massively wrong or we fall big, and the people we thought would rush to us create distance instead. And when I read that, it just hit me. It's like it's what I want part of this podcast to be about. I want us to catch people on the bounce. And so for those of you who have screwed up in some kind of royal way, whether it's public or private, whether a lot of people know about it or nobody knows about it, we want to help catch you on the bounce. Like we want to be there for you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our goal, and that's what our heart is. When people mess up, we want to reach out to them in the same way that people have reached out to us when we messed up.
Big time. Yeah, we've both been there. And I don't think I could have ever truly understood what someone needs in their deepest, darkest moments without having been through that.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of lived a charmed life for a long time. And like you said, we'll talk through our story on another podcast, but we've both been at the very rock bottom. And I don't think I could have ever truly, truly understood and known the deep love that I already have until I royally messed up.
Yeah. So to all you prodigals who have unfortunately run into the spirit of the elder brother, stay on the journey. Don't let the spirit of the elder brother keep you for what the open arms of the loving Father have for you. For those of you that are in the position of the older brother, because I've been there before too, where I felt like I've done everything right. And I get that. You've worked hard, you've dotted all the I's and you've crossed all the T's, and you are really confused right now why anyone would pay any attention or love to the younger son who screwed up, because he has or she has screwed up royally. And you think the party feels a little premature because what if they haven't learned their lesson yet? Right? What if they make the same mistake again?
Right.
I just want you to know, listen, the party is going to happen with or without you. So instead of sitting at home and being judgmental, why not go ahead and join the party?
Just love.
Yeah.
So good.
Just love. And so that's kind of where my heart and my head is right now, kind of what I'm thinking and what I'm processing through. I love that story.
It's so good. I love it too. And I don't know, I think you and I both, that's our heart and our goal in life. And that's hard because we're human beings and we have our own pain, our own hurt, and it influences so much stuff. But I don't know, that's my heartbeat. It's your heartbeat. And I hope it's helpful. And that's our goal through this podcast.
Yeah. This podcast, we want it to be about people, about real situations. In fact, one of the fun things that we want to do is we meet a lot of people in a lot of different places, and I think curiosity drives us in a lot of ways. We love to ask people questions and hear people's stories, and so we want to introduce you to some other people along the way. And there'll be times we're going to have guests on this podcast for sure. But kind of like if we can every week, we want to find just random people that we meet, whether it's a waiter, whether it's someone that lives in our neighborhood,
or Uber driver,
whatever,
whoever,
that we want to introduce you to.
Yeah.
And we just want to ask them a few questions about life and see how they respond, right?
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, I find the most interesting things about the most unassuming people. Like it's so fun. And we end up at lunch, our lunches go long because we're trying to talk to our waiter about their life. But I mean, I don't know. I just think there's so much beauty in people that you don't normally ask questions to. And the person we asked our questions to, we call it 4 questions because we're just, we have 4 questions. How original are we? Yeah. We're kicking this off strong.
We have 4 questions, so we called it 4
questions. But yeah, so we asked one of our neighbors. Her name is Jenna.
I love Jenna.
She is just a ball of light and positive energy and just makes you feel like $1 million. So I was like, we need to talk to her first. She's going to be our kickoff. She just has so much wisdom, but at the same time doesn't take herself too seriously. And I think that is just such a beautiful thing. So we asked her these 4 questions. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see her, but on our podcast, you're going to hear her.
You're here, all right.
She is fantastic.
Roll it.
All right, you ready? Okay, Jenna, what do you miss most about being a kid?
Oh, man. That's a good question. I think I just miss the spontaneity of anything I wanted to do, I just went and did it. And you didn't think about the consequences. It was just, if it was fun, you went and did it. And if you got in trouble, then you were in trouble.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, this kind of goes in line. What is a secret that you still have kept from your mom? She doesn't know to this day.
It's a secret that I don't want to tell you either.
Pick something else. No darkness there.
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know. I don't think I have many secrets from my mom.
I actually believe that about you.
Yeah, I don't really have any secrets from anybody, even though a lot of people wish I still had secrets.
I think that's so true of you. It's exactly true. Okay, third one.
Okay.
When have you seen good come from a bad situation in your life?
Oh. Well, honestly, the thing that comes to my mind right away, and I hope I don't get teary, is when my dad was dying, but we didn't know he was dying. He was very sick. And I wrote him a letter saying that I forgave him for some of the things that he had done, because I had become an adult. I was 25. So I saw him in it with adult eyes. And when he passed away, overnight, I had peace, and it was a gift from God.
Wow.
So that was my good.
That is so good. Okay, last one.
Yep.
What gives you hope?
The small things I see people do every day. Yeah, because if you watch TV or you listen to the media or you're on social media, you see the bad and the hate. But when you see people and you see the kindnesses they do to everybody every day, when I see you, just the things you do for me, that gives me hope.
I didn't pay you to say that.
No, this is not sponsored.
That's great. I love that. I love that. What gives you hope? It's the small things.
Yeah.
I think it's a great reminder for all of us, because I think all of us would love the idea of changing the world. And then we get lost in the mundane of every day. And I think we need to all be reminded it's the small things.
Yeah.
That's really where the difference is made. And it's where we're able to give hope to other people. It's just the small things.
One person at a time. And if everybody's doing that, everyone's impacted. And that sounds so cliche. But yeah, I really, really believe in that thought of just, if you're putting people in front of you and just remembering that they're people too and they have hearts, I just think we'd all behave differently. So yeah, do be kind to people. Is that what Ellen says? Be kind to people.
I think she says something like that. Be kind.
Yeah, so good.
We did it. We made it to our first podcast.
Our first good talk. It was a good talk.
Give me a high five.
High five. Here we go.
We promise we're going to get better at this. We're going to keep figuring
going
this
along
out.
the ride with
and it's
us.
kind of a new format for us, but we're going to figure it out along the way, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. I love it.
I want to leave you guys. There's a little scripture that I've read recently. It's just kind of a blessing, a prayer. And it's something that I'm kind of committing to pray over all of you guys who are a part of this Good Talk podcast, this Good Talk community that we hope to develop over time. And it comes out of the Old Testament. It's number 6. It just says this: may the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace. That's our prayer from us and to you. Thank you so much for being a part of our first podcast.
We love you guys already.